Chapter 157. The crate containing my armor now lies on Priest's deserted docks, hidden from view by rows of barrels and other supplies. It only takes me a moment to realize that the box is unnaturally cold and also that the metal exterior is, in fact, a containment field. I mention it to Loth, who nods with pride. Oh aye, it is as ye say. Below the mountain, we found a place that used to be a magma chamber. Once, it had been connected to the surface by a chimney, but that one had closed eons ago. When we first excavated the place, the miners had to use special equipment against the cold. It got so bad that we considered giving up and containing it instead, but we persevered and found ice. Ice? Black ice as cold as the void and as hard as diamond. Even explosives couldn't put a dent in it. I had to use a special heated wire to cut through a single block. We also realized that it was too heavy and freezing to be used in anything we could think of except. And he smiles. The armor of a vampire lady. And here ye be, all fresh from the mold or whatever ye call one's use. It took me 6 months to cut all the pieces and engrave them. I have inlaid them with obsidian glyphs ground to shape over weeks of effort. The links and nails are enchanted electrum left to bask in the moonlight at the heart of the skins. It weighs over 250 kilograms, would kill any human on touch, would stop a cannonball without cracking, and contains enough enchantments to make a battle golem. It is the perfect armor. By the Watcher Loth, did you truly make such a thing? I, lass, had. Maybe you will fall in battle one day, but it won't be because of the armor, that's for sure. Enough preliminaries. I open it. I plant myself in front of the box and pull on the chained ring I see. All 4 sides disengage with a clang. They unfold like a midnight rose to reveal the undeniable proof that Loth is a mad artist, and that he is also the greatest armorer the world has ever seen. By the Watcher. In the name of the Eye. Both Phineas and I cannot help but widen our eyes before the wonder in front of us, just as the mortals take an instinctive step back at the sudden chill in the air. While the protection I lost was a dress of exquisite make, this one is a deadly plate of polar death, as elegant as it is intimidating. This is an armor fit for an immortal on the warpath. If the devil crawled out of hell to lead his unending horde, he would be wearing its male counterpart. My previous battle dress could pass as real cloth from afar. No one with a functional eye and a bit of sense could gaze upon this lethal perfection and think that it is anything else but a tool of slaughter. Plates of black ice interlock gracefully in a narrow skirt over greaves. The chest is made from a single slab, while delicate scale-like fragments cover the stomach and articulations. The right gauntlet is a sophisticated masterpiece barely larger than a glove, while the left one shows an integrated spellcasting system and knuckles designed to knock down a castle wall. There are pauldrons as well, barbaric things covered in destructive enchantments so that blocking with them would destroy even a solid steel weapon. The helmet is specifically designed to cover most of my head while still giving me full range of movement. A mask in the likeness of my face in silvery metal leaves the eyes and mouth free so that I may bite down mid-battle. The rest, up to my chin, is protected by a heavily enchanted mesh of interlocking small mail over a respectable gorget. It will take a colossal force to behead me. The gorget is even designed to stop blades neatly instead of pushing a potential blade up and into my face. It was designed with me in mind from the ground up. Every plate, every part of the armor shows intricate engravings of black on black where obsidian comes to enchant the eternal heart of winter, and the chill I feel in my vein takes on a magical quality. I place my hand against the familiar sigil adorning its chest, now smaller to give room to a dense lattice of fire and shock-repelling enchantments. The cold caresses me and my essence. I remember that moment of breathtaking beauty when I got lost in Semiramis maze years ago and ended up near a pole. They share the same lethal and untouchable beauty. Loth, lass, I present to you the Aurora, the crown jewel of my collection and the hardiest armor ever to come out of Dvergr hands. I must also apologize. I wish you could give it a try here. It pains me to admit it, but he's correct. We do not have the time for me to change and find not just a suitable partner, but a proper battlefield as well. I shall have to christen the armor at a later date, and what a shame it is. I know exactly what Loth was thinking when he created this masterpiece. This is the armor to end all armors. If I wear this and face my sire, I will be able to deflect a few hits. In fact, the Aurora must be one of the only armors on the planet that could give him pause. Loth knows this. That is why he gifts it to me now. He is preparing for the end long before it can happen, just as I would expect from someone who was alive when the Vikings started their first raids. Loth, thank you. There are no words. You can try a few superlatives and see how they feel. I do not roll my eyes this time. Instead, I give him a proper bow. It is cold perfection given form. Not bad. Now, you know who I had in mind when I made it, besides you. Yes. But Disney forget to give it a whirl beforehand. Oh, Loth. With the way my life is going, I will be wearing it 3 weeks into getting home. We board soon after and leave before dawn. Loth's ship sails smoothly across the Adriatic and I busy myself getting up to speed with the fallout from our little rebellion, as Loth affectionately calls it. It appears that the image of the Knights has taken a serious blow and several agreements are being renegotiated, but there are no significant changes in terms of allowing Knights access. Vampires are pragmatic and Knights are too useful to be simply discarded. Indeed, their continued existence proves that they fill a necessary role. Nevertheless, the Knights organize a massive conclave, the results of which I do not know. Perhaps they will implement new rules to make sure that corruption and self-interest no longer taints their organization? I wish them the best of luck, but it will not erase this offense and it will certainly not bring Manfred back. I wash my hands of their entire organization. If they come after me in America, I will kill them with pleasure. Crossing the Altantlik with Loth proves more interesting than my usual fare. The Skarag sovereign naturally brought enough tools to pass the time, and we work on design improvements for an interesting innovation called the Gatling gun. In particular, we consider ways to make it portable and practical but fail to achieve a definitive result in the time it takes to reach Boston. Phineas grows melancholic despite my best efforts, until Loth finds an unexpected source of amusement for the Lancaster financial records. It appears that my newest ally hunts mistakes and anomalies with more fervor than rogues and undead mages, not that I blame him. Jimena worries until she is assured that her lover is secured and on her way to the New World as well. Interestingly, she is less affected than I feared. Her absolute confidence that she made the right choice to leave means that she is not harassed by regrets, not that our kind much suffers from this unfortunate tendency. I also expect some sort of attack, but apparently even the most foolish of privateers would think twice before attacking a warship. We moor in Boston's harbor 3 weeks later, having made good time. We are welcomed with a ceremony by Constantine and Sephar since Loth is technically a foreign head of state. The fortress security has been improved once more and the dense woods surrounding the lone castle now host a few new hamlets, all inhabited by retainers loyal to the cause. Sephar takes me aside while Phineas goes through the induction process. The delicate blonde lady sits me down in her opulent room for some tea. I now realize how much I changed in those past 2 years through the telling mirror of her reaction. Victoria and Tauran took my side the moment we came across each other, because the bounds that tie us go beyond that of mere allies. As such, my ascension to the rank of lady received their unconditional approval. Sephar and I have always been allies of circumstances, however. Now that my essence rivals her own in power and my control has reached new heights, I can see that she is a bit at a loss. It will take an Aura Master to read mine now, thanks to Svyatolsev's tireless teachings. Perhaps one day I will manage to mask my presence as completely as Malakim does. Allow me to congratulate you on your progress. With you by our side, our influence can only grow. She starts with a fake smile. An empty remark designed to probe my intentions. I could play subtle games with her if I could spare the patience. I know that some newly ascended lords and ladies tend to settle grudges and remove yokes. What she fails to understand is that I joined her faction fully knowing that she was a snake whose interests aligned with my own by sheer luck. Nobody compelled me. I realize that she is judging me according to her own standards. No matter how much time we spend together, she cannot fully believe that I could work towards common good out of my own volition, even after I demonstrated it, because she is a mercenary at heart. Indeed, despite its disastrous end, I achieved the desired effect. Now I am ready to work again with the Accords to guarantee our common future. Nothing has changed, I am still on your side. Now empty your bag, you duplicitous flaxen-haired knot of vipers. Excellent. While I would normally let you recover from your ordeals, there are 3 major issues we must address immediately. For the rest, I will have my second prepare a full report on the situation. First, we have reached the point where the knowledge of our existence will soon be spread to the masses. We object, of course, and have prepared countermeasures. I imagine that you do not intend to slaughter every pamphlet printer in the New World? Of course not. The key to long-term public success is not to remove your opponents but to discredit them. We have received an intriguing proposal to publish a book of monsters by an unknown genius. One of the entries concerns us, and shows a list of weaknesses, some real, some less. Such as, the author included garlic and flowing water as repellents. I scoff. Preposterous. Who would swallow such nonsense? And our lack of reflection and inability to appear clearly in photographs makes sense to you? She retorts. We have grown so used to our own nature that we tend to forget how peculiar our existence remains. In any case, the book has been advertised and will hit every shelf in a nation obsessed with the strange ones in their midst. There are tales of witches, werewolves and fae filled with inexact statements and exaggerations, and yet the flowing prose makes them so very believable. The mysterious author also includes absurd creatures such as chupacabras and drop bears which we are reasonably certain are jokes. He even mentions traveling courts of magical dancers and small winged creatures. Wait. Hold on. This sounds awfully familiar. Imagine that. What does he say about the fae? Oh, some nonsense about good fortune and sexual prowess. Here, I have a copy here if you want. I check the name. Simonide. Sinead. Of course. Are you quite all right, my dear? I am. I merely find the author quite cheeky. Have you ever met him? Oh goodness me no, he is a rather eccentric fellow and only communicates via proxy. I have been unable to track him down so far. Quite intriguing. But I digress. The reason why I mention this is that the book will be published 1 month from now, and it would be best if you and your allies could momentarily lay low while the general public treads the street looking for us in the woods looking for drop bears. Yes, of course. What was the second point? When you are done at home, I would appreciate it if you could return to us because we could use your diplomatic touch for the sake of coordinating between the different supernatural communities. Of course. Now, what do you mean about being done at home? This is my third point and the one I must conclude with. Despite our best effort and financial backing, your interests and that of Melusan are under significant and relentless attacks. You could not have returned at a better time. Oh. I think someone is going to have a very unpleasant surprise. I think so too. Do enjoy yourself. Jimena chooses to stay behind as she decides to wait for Ainsa, which I encourage her to do despite her worries. She must decide what to do next. Phineas' induction into the Accords is done by the end of the night thanks to my benevolent influence. By vouching for him, and because Constantine is aware of his circumstances, he is cleared to join. It really helps to be friends with the boss on occasion. It also helps that I fulminate so much that Constantine mentions the carpet catching fire. We are going to Illinois immediately. I will not tolerate little roaches on my territory. When the cat is away, the mice come, is it? I will find them and I will make an example out of them. Theirs will be a cautionary tale. Whoever they are, they made a big mistake. Vadim, who possesses the unusual ability to transport us through the realm of the nightmares, refuses to help me get to my territory faster, citing that it is only for emergencies and some such nonsense. The gull. Would he not consider it urgent if he had ants in his sarcophagus? How is this any different? Ugh. I am forced to take a mortal train that travels by day, thus being carried around like a vulgar piece of luggage. We stopped before Chicago and I rushed through the wilderness on Metas while leaving Phineas with the gear. I cross the boundary to my territory and feel more alive. My perception extends and I feel my intuition grow keener, as does a deep sensation of wrongness. I am under attack. There are assailants on my territory. I must defend the den. All right, enough RE. I must first understand what is happening. Metas carries me through fields I know, some of which now host houses instead. Parts of the plains are now fields, and the forest has receded. Progress has not stopped while I was away, it would seem. I keep going at a slower pace now and hide my features under a cloak. I wear a spare armored dress I had left in Boston. My compound looks intact, it seems. Nothing much has changed. Two guards salute me nervously when I enter the administrative building and make my way to Merritt's office. I stop at the door and took a deep breath. There are two auras inside. One belongs to Merritt and the other is strangely familiar, although I do not recognize it. My second-in-command shows clear signs of fear and anxiety. That will not do. I must not judge her for failing her mission before I understand exactly what happened. They have held the fort while I was away, arguably on a personal quest. I must exert restraint. I politely knock and one of my oldest allies invites me in. Merritt is 73. It had not occurred to me until now because she is quite a powerful witch and age only has a limited grasp on her body, but her hair is mostly gray now and there are crow feet besides her keen eyes. She wears a conservative dress in green that complements her sprite body. She currently sits with a straight spine as if preparing for an onslaught. The second person lounges against a nearby cupboard with affected nonchalance. I would be more impressed if her aura did not flicker and if the room did not smell of nervous sweat. I recognize Lynn, Merritt's daughter. I am quite surprised since she was last married to some rich gentleman in the East. I had not quite realized how powerful I have become since ascending, and not just in terms of pure physical abilities. I can sense others effortlessly. Even my control has improved since my essence is now more malleable. I have not yet tried to cast spells, but I suspect that they may be more potent now. More importantly, others can feel it too. I may no longer let go of my aura under any circumstances. Good evening, Merritt. It is good to see you again. My God, Ariane, is that really you? You are so cold. I felt you since you were outside of the building. I have resolved my aura problem. You have? Yes, I am a lady now. Congratulations? She is afraid. Her reaction does not hurt me, however it reminds me that I must behave. Alexandria Merritt, it is me, Ariane. She flushes and frowns, ready to scold me for using her first name, which she dislikes. I give her a small smirk to let her know that I got her and anger dissolves into tired amusement. My antics earn me a vague snort. She lowers her guard. I have accomplished my goal. Terror was making her a bit tempting and I promised myself that I would not feed on my allies. Yes, sorry. Your appearance is the same, and so is your terrible sense of humor it would seem. I assure you, I am fully myself and in control. Now, I have heard alarming reports and I would like a situation report, if that is fine with you. Yes. Yes, of course. I have it here. She picks up a bundle of paper from her desk. But before we begin, I would like to inform you that I am in the process of stepping down as the manager of your interests in Marquette. Her heartbeat increases and she stutters a bit. Not that I was mistreated or offered a better alternative. I am just tired. I have been at this for 30 years, Ariane. 30 years. I need a change of scenery. I understand. She blinks and turns to Lynn briefly as if to verify that she had not dreamed my words. You do? For a moment, I consider dismissing the entire conversation to focus on the intruders. My instincts roar at me to go out and kill, but I smother them, for now. Merit is important. I accepted it years ago when she went out of her way to help me defeat the Herald. She is the sort of character I want to see by my side. Honorable. Hardworking. Effective. She is her own person with her own take on things, and I need individuals like her to reach the top because the Watcher knows that I am not perfect. My sort of conquest requires generals by my side. She is, well, was, one of them. I owe her an explanation, I think. Believe it or not, you are the third match I will lose. She seems stupefied. I imagine that she expected another type of reaction. The first was Nashoba. I lost him to a wasting disease. He was a shaman of a proud nation called the Choctaw, and he could see the future. He taught me much about choosing one's battles, about working on what one could change. He was also someone who knew when the cost of something was too high. The second was Frost. He died after using all his power to push back the Scourge Hive and save the lives of countless men. He was the first and so far only person I offered to change. He refused, of course. They died, but some others, like Sheridan, left because they had turned a page and were ready to see what else life had to offer to them. I understand that I do not age. I understand that you do and that you will not always be by my side. I need mortals to remind me of what I have lost. Losing them in turn is a necessity I must accept, even if it pains me. So yes, Merritt. I understand. We have worked hard together to turn Marquette into the city it has become. You can pursue your next project with the knowledge that what we accomplished here will build the path to a prosperous future. And besides, you are not the kind of person who simply quits. I imagine that the presence of your daughter relates to your retirement. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ariane. Your words. They mean a lot coming from you. And yes, I will leave you in good hands. Lanier has been managing more and more of my duties over the past few months. She is also better at manipulating those rich twats, I mean, the good society of our fair city. Mother tends to forget that much can be achieved by simply asking politely. Bands of aura unwind from her person like ribbons. Ah, I see. We call her kind enchantresses. They focus on mind magic. Most of them die within 1 year of starting their social career, either at the hand of a scorned lover or because they stole someone they should not have touched. Lynn is smarter than most. She knows that I perceived her power and pulls it back. And when did you return? I ask. She understands the unspoken questions. 3 months ago with my son, after our enemies started harrying us. I give you my word that I have nothing to do with them. I swear on my power that I am firmly on your side. As to why I returned, it all comes down to the unfortunate death of my husband. She leans to the side and shows her willowy figure. While Merritt dresses in a more conservative, provincial fashion, Lynn is more daring. She boldly exhibits her new position as an affluent widow whose East Coast accent remains mild enough to impress without growing condescending. She also wears perfume. I would be interested in watching her workroom. Perhaps I can learn a few tricks from her later. My dear Edward always doted on me to the disapproval of his family. With his unexpected passing, he could no longer shield me from their retribution, and I preferred to liquidate our assets and return to the frontier rather than fight a protracted battle in the courtroom. Merritt, I ask, is this a reinterpretation of the Pike family affair? Should I prowl abandoned farmstead for irate relatives to snack on? Worse, Ariane. Instead of mercenaries, they will send lawyers. That is fine. They share a delicious flavor of greed and moral flexibility. Lynn interrupts us and thus ends my hypocrisy. Isaac and Salim are lawyers and they would not be amused by our banter. Ahem. While dear brother busies himself with the Red Cabal, I have put my skills to use against our foes. I have always had a way with business dealings and my husband made full use of them. As a result, I have already managed to stabilize our more vulnerable ventures within the state. It helps that no one asks if I have my husband's permission when I drop your name. Yes, very good, but we are now talking about recent events. So far only mentioned an attack in passing, and my intuition speaks of enemies on my land. Please start from the beginning. Merritt nods. She checks her notes and breathes in. Her back curves under the weight of the recollection, and she places both of her hands on the table, palm open against the grainy wood. Right. Half a year ago, We started getting hit in a way that I immediately recognized as deliberate. Some key shipments of steel or textile went missing at crucial moments, messing with our supply chains and forcing us to fail deliveries. Mysterious agents underbid us in key contracts, proposing prices that could in no way turn a profit. Our image took a hit. We lost quite a few guards to those ambushes as well, which meant that we had to pay a premium on the next. We were facing a domino effect. You know how it is. I managed to track down suspicious movement by newcomers in the city and sent spies after them. They were all slain in one night. I forced myself into immobility and grabbed my aura tightly. I know where this is going. We did not retreat. I called the militia upon the suspected locations for a raid at dawn, and we did find suspicious men. Mercenaries. They all fought to the death. Disposable agents? She nods. We believe it is so. The bodies we recovered showed marks of fangs, and we found a secret passage to an underground secured room. Unfortunately, it was empty when we breached it. Its occupants had already left. We managed to plug a few leaks by checking for signs of thraldom, but we are fighting an uphill battle without a vampire on our side. Our people are scared of leaving the city at night. We have vampires on our side. Where is Melusan? Besieged with your followers in Chicago. Fighting a losing battle, or so the reports indicate, Lynn states in a smooth voice. She stands up and removes a map of Illinois from a nearby table. Pins cover its surface, many of them around the cities of Marquette and Chicago farther north. Most of the isolated dots remain close to the border to Kentucky and generally in the south where the terrain is more rugged and troops are more mobile. Our enemies are extremely well funded. We are being overwhelmed and dismantled piece by piece. The Red Cabal is forced to neutrality since most of the threats do not appear to be supernatural in nature. Meanwhile, the werewolves are being hunted by people who know who they are. They have closed the gates and secluded themselves. We are facing vampires, and they are trying to depose me, I calmly state. Both mages look surprised. Depose? Like a queen? We vampires are rather old-fashioned when it comes to territory. If one is unable to defend theirs, they are unworthy of holding it. The support of my allies in the Accords can only go so far. If I had not returned, they would have had ample time to destroy my reputation and that of Melusan until defending us became untenable. Could those allies not help us? Of course, but only if we bring undeniable proof of foreign involvement, and you have been prevented from doing so. No matter. I am here now. Their little games will end. I admire your confidence, however. You do not have the tools to comprehend what it means to have a devourer lady on your side. I release my grasp on my essence and allow it to spread across the room. Thorny roots crawl through the cracks of the world until tortured mortar and straining planks protest at the edge of our hearing. The shadows lengthen and the gas lights flicker and dim. The temperature drops. Please, no more. I stop the demonstration and notice that both women have grown noticeably paler. It so happens that someone thought me weak, I tell them. I will correct that misconception. Out of all the vampires my sire spawned throughout the millennia, only 3 ever reached the rank of lord. The time has come to remind those intruders of why we survived. A new ally by the name of Phineas will arrive tomorrow. You will grant him access to all relevant documents, including anything you found in the mercenaries' homes. I want to know how they paid for everything and where the money came from. I want to know who owns the companies that underbid us. In the meanwhile, I shall visit my good friend Jeffrey and solve his trespass problem. Then while he roams the land looking for rats, I shall head north and pay a certain redhead a visit. Do you expect our enemies to have a lord as well? No, dear Lynn, I do not expect it. I am counting on it. Chapter 158. I decide against leaving immediately and spend the rest of the night patrolling Marquette. I pay particular attention to auras and smells. Unfortunately, if there are any vampires around, they are being cautious. I do meet with some success while inspecting my personnel one by one and finding one under the thrall of an enemy. The influence appears as a light hue in the man's aura. A summary inspection of his neck reveals 2 discrete bite marks. I manage to control myself before I kill him on the spot. He is a victim of circumstances, not a traitor. Once the influence is removed, he confesses with great fear that he was ordered to send all manners of financial and trade information to an address in Chicago. Truly, if Melusin has not betrayed me, those people have some gall. I let him go and complete my purge the next afternoon just as Phineas arrives. The Lancaster warrior dives into charts and legal documents with a Rosenthal-like delectation, peeling the truth wherever it may be. With him on our side, it will not be long before hostile fundings are tracked to their sources. Already, a few persons of interest in Marquette are set to receive some pointed questions in the near future. I leave Phineas to his intellectual hunt and grab my armor. Oh yes, I see no point in holding back now. Besides, the werewolves appreciate true strength. I wait for nightfall and slip out of the compound to an empty warehouse at the very edge of the city, near the road to Moonside. I call Meadows and the old girl gallops excitedly by my side. She, too, can smell a good bloodshed coming. Now the real question is, can you carry me while I wear that? This is a valid point. Meadows is a powerful, fast war horse, not a Percarin. I wonder if she can accommodate me. No sooner have I asked that she knees and flips her head with great agitation. As I stand there like an idiot, she turns on herself and lightly kicks me. I block and complain. Meadows, what is the meaning of? Oh. She is gone. I stand there dejected for 5 minutes, until I hear hooves and she returns wearing her barding. I will never understand how she puts it on. This is the barding Loth made years ago from light metal and alligator hide. SSHE looks absolutely regal in it. I smile at her confidence and place a hand on her flank. She bolts away. Come on, Meadows, it was a genuine concern. A proud neigh. She snorts and turns her head away. I mean, I never doubted that you could carry me. I lie, I was just concerned that you might find the armor cold and uncomfortable. Considering that it would freeze a mortal solid on contact, my worries are genuine. Well, they would be if I were being truthful. Meadows casts a dubious, red glance at me and shows some teeth. I apologize respectfully, call her the Queen of Destriers and the best pony on earth and elsewhere until she finally deigns to let me climb on her back, then we are off at breakneck speed. I think she wants to make a point, so I go with the flow and let her race through the plains of Illinois. It occurs to me that if we hit someone right now, they might as well be standing on a train track with a meat grinder hanging in front of their face. No such accidents happen. We arrive at Moonside shortly after. I ask Meadows to slow down, rein in my aura, and remove my helmet. No need to appear too hostile in those trying times. It makes little difference to the 2 sentries hiding in the bush by the village's entrance. I hear soft curses when I arrive like a nightmare, ha ha, and stop next to their hiding spot. Branches wilt overhead while a puddle whitens with spider web lines of frost. I breathe in the scent of wolves, of their fear, of harvested fields. Attention hangs in the air, not just because of my presence, but because of a general feeling of unease. Werewolves are meant to be predators, just like us but less competently. It grates me to see them so vigilant because it implies weakness. I cannot abide that in one of my faithful minions. You lot. Tell Jeffrey that Rhiannon has returned, I tell the bush and the men behind. Nothing stops except their breath. A bit late for that, gentlemen. Besides, you two reek of sweat. Meadows can always use more ears. Do not make me repeat myself. That does it. Whether the familiar name or the familiar threat jostles them into action, it matters not. They race to the center of the village to fetch their leader. I dismount and walk to the wood board on which the village proudly announces itself. I always found Moonside to be quite tacky, yet I believe I understand it now. Jeffrey always wanted a haven where his folk could be wholly and publicly themselves. And since the place is out there in the boonies, they normally can. Something must have changed recently because as I look at the many thatched roofs and fields, I find something missing. Namely, a lot of naked people. Werewolves will not clothe themselves unless compelled. I only have to wait a minute before a group comes running. Jeffrey jogs down the road, followed by 2 columns of fighters. I raise a brow when I notice that they wear leather dusters but no shirts. The women in their midst wear horizontal bands to cover their breasts, but leave their stomachs and cleavage shamelessly exposed. Ah, werewolves and dressing codes. I should not complain. At least they covered their genitals. Jeffrey slows down at a respectful distance and gives me a devious smile that does not reach his eyes. He is quite dashing with his rugged good look and corded muscles. It helps that he approaches Jarek in height, if not in size. Although his roguish facade has not changed, I can see calculation running behind his keen brown eyes. Recent events must have tried his patience. "Good evening to you, Jeffrey," I greet pleasantly. "I heard that you have a pest problem." "Ah, bosswoman. You have returned to us in our hour of upset, just as I said you might. Didn't I, June?" He elbows the lithe blonde woman by his side. She rolls her eyes dramatically. "I said to her, that's a bosswoman problem for sure. No way the usual bounty hunters would bother with smart stuff when they think silver is enough, no. Not like that Hendricks fellow who just rode into town asking about large beasts in spring, remember? That guy was dafter than a headless goose, he was." "Jeffrey." "Right. We do have a pest problem, and those pests are quite pesky if you catch my meaning. Because they are a pain in my backside. See, they know exactly who we are. All of us. I think I know what he means. Very few people are aware of a werewolf community thanks to my efforts. Of course, there are rumors of large creatures in the woods of the region, but so far all those who visited Moonside wrongly assumed that werewolves were hiding within the populace. By the time they realized that their quarry was neither hiding nor in the populace, it was too late. Do they use specific methods? Yes. It all started 2 months ago. As Jeffrey speaks, his demeanor changes. The affable persona he usually dons like a cloak fades away to reveal the cunning leader underneath. It pains me to admit that I was one of the first to be fooled, when I unwittingly allowed him to bring the whole pack to my lands. First we lost a patrol, but said patrol was composed of 2 very aggressive young men, and they are the most likely to leave. Unfortunately, we found a body in a far field a few days later. He had been killed by silver bullets at a long range. Tracking them to their source was made impossible because the culprits used vast amounts of mint oil to saturate the place. Everyone got a headache, including yours truly. It happened 2 more times. Culprits? Plural. Yes. The bodies we found showed signs of multiple bullet wounds. We suspect that the attackers shoot a volley to prevent their victim from escaping and potentially recovering once the bullets are removed. I personally led a tracking party to all the surrounding camps and valleys around the place, but we never found more than traces of their passage. And a damn stench. He sniffs. God, I can smell it in my nightmares. Do you know that I used to enjoy mint tea? Jesus. In any case, we have had trouble tracking them because the entire west part of the village stinks to high heaven. I see. I consider the situation for a while. I have several tools that do not rely too much on smell, and a powerful scent is not as debilitating to me as it is to the wolves. When was the latest attack? I ask. 2 days ago, by the edge of Zeller's field. They tried to shoot at a patrol but failed, then legged it with horses after dispersing a full vial of their horrible oil. Can you lead me there? Of course, right this way. I leave Metis behind to follow Jeffrey on foot. The squad closes in behind us, showing a surprising amount of discipline for their kind. They match my walking speed. I do not jog in full plate. I either stump or I sprint, none of that infantry routine, thank you very much. I put rules and protocols in place to avoid further deaths, he tells me. There are large patrols moving around the surroundings in irregular patterns, a curfew, and we have set traps in some places. We even killed 2 of their horses that way. But it can't last. I feel Jeffrey's gaze on me and turn to meet it. He flinches. Damn, it's cold tonight. Anyway, we cannot stay cloistered for long. We are already pushing ourselves to live a normal life. I understand, Jeffrey. Do not worry. You are one of mine. I appreciate the help. He snarls. Ghastly, giant fangs grow in his mouth, eerily disturbing on his still human face. I only wish to find a throat to rip Miss Elf. I deploy my essence around in a way that only he can feel. The polar wave forces his jaw to go slack. I have no time for this. The night is young, I tell him, not unkindly. Yes. And full of surprises. Zeller's field sits at the edge of the village, nestled between two stretches of forest. Only a few tracks of blood and the lingering scent of peppermint reveal that the locale is more than just a barring field. I place my helmet back on my head and take down the mask. It is a function that blocks noxious gas and I use it now. Even without breathing, the aggressive aroma would still be distracting. Stay here. The werewolves do not protest. Some of them even pinch their noses in distress. I walk to the epicenter of the herbal explosion to search for traces of an intruder. I find it easily. Someone smashed a bottle of oil against a tree. With their bare hands. The darkened piece of glass showing a dark set of fingerprints speaks for itself. Whoever used it was careless and in a hurry. They are making it almost too easy. I use the glyphs embedded in the armor's powerful gauntlet to cast a tracking spell. Unfortunately, it returns no result. The enemies are too far, and the construct is too amateurish. I am not giving up yet. There are only two possibilities. Either the attackers fight from a distant base every time, or they have a base nearby that the wolves have been unable to find. Both options have their own risks, but I would lean towards a local base since one of the attacks occurred a few days after the other. As for the base escaping detection, well, Illinois is vast and recently quite minty. My inspection done, I grab the shard and leave the forest, finding the group alert and away. They collectively take a step back when I arrive, until I force the shard into a piece of tissue and down my glove. They are too far for my spell to pick up, but I suggest that we ride a mile out and try to catch their trail. It has been 2 days, it would be faded by now. Not necessarily. One of them hurt his hand on the bottle he threw, which means that some of the scent may linger. Maybe. Let's try it. I call Metis, who arrives from the forest to our left, this time. Her space shenanigans send the werewolves in a tizzy, or so I think until I catch a whispered sentence. It's her. The ear snatcher. Metis is now Moonside's boogeyman. Or Boj horse. Bah, it matters not so long as she gets her well-deserved infamy. We ride out through a thick ring of trees and out onto more empty fields. Once we are far enough, I have them fan out and we ride in a curve that follows the edge of the village. Eventually, I pick a powerful perfume on the wind. That way, June says. Jeffrey's blonde beta points to a lone tree standing proudly on the side of a dirt road. We find our first hint discarded on the floor, a leather glove of average quality with 2 fingers torn and dark specks of blood. A good half of the fabric is saturated with blood. Discarded bandages litter the sparse grass. They must have made a halt there to stop the bleeding, Jeffrey comments with his sleeve held over his nose. I do not comment. It would have been easy to find the tracks left by our foes. A simple organized search would have revealed those clues within an hour, yet Jeffrey could not manage that because, in the end, he is limited by his nature. The werewolf curse was of human making while ours is divine. They failed to sniff down their quarry and thus gave up. Whoever sent those men must be familiar with the nature of my allies, their flaws and their struggles. They accounted for those, but they did not account for me. I do not need the werewolves to be perfect. I merely ask for their loyalty. They have proven it before when I brought them to bear against the Scourge Hive. I have not forgotten, and I have the skills they lack. The glove proves a much more powerful focus than the shard was. I believe that some items, especially those charged with meaning, possess more inherent trace than other more mundane ones, another quirk of magic. A damaged garment soiled with the blood of an escaping criminal gives off much power, and the spell catched on it. That way. We ride out, this time much faster. The pack behind me growls and snarls as they run, still wearing their human forms. We make good time and I once again marvel at my companions' seemingly unending stamina. Their oars merge into a large cohesive whole that smells of hunt, but also of heat and flesh, which I cannot quite grasp. I still enjoy the presence of this great roiling mass that the pack has become. Each individual helps the other calm the curse, direct it, become part of a greater whole. Even their smell and nudity fade in my mind while I enjoy the experience. It certainly helps that I am upwind and do not have to see them. The plains of Illinois move past us, flat expanses of grass decorated with small copses of trees. The hills roll up and down under an immense sky. There are no trails here, and no farmsteads. For a while, we just move with determination. All hunts must come to an end, however, and I slow down on the edge of an empty field. A heavy log marks its boundaries. Someone carved the initials JP on its surface with a sharp knife. This is the Patterson estate. We have an understanding with Joseph, the patriarch, Jeffrey says. We stay off his land and he doesn't bother us. Not tonight. The trail leads on. He looks uncomfortable. The owner of this glove is close, I continue, very close. Jeffrey frowns. Just like me, he cannot easily go back on agreements. We are demanding explanations, not trespassing to steal his milk and bark at his cow. Jeffrey. Lead on. Whoever lives here believed in being self-sufficient, though it must have changed recently. I dismount and we walk through the field and over a small incline to a compound surrounded by a relatively sturdy palisade, with a fresh coat of paint. Jeffrey's bubbling aura betrays his suspicion. This must be a recent addition to the farmstead. A locked double gate bars our way. I place my hand against it and push. Wood groans and cracks. A chain snaps. We walk in. This is it. 3 buildings now stand in our path. A slightly sagging one that shows signs of age, a well-built barn, and a larger, newer house with an attic. A man peeks from an upper floor shutter and ducks back with a soft swear. I can hear 8 heartbeats from the newer house and 7 from the older one. I can smell horses in the barn. A light smell of gun oil mixes with that of grain, beast, dust, and peppermint. More than that, the very instincts in me scream their outrage. Someone harbored the enemy. Someone who had no cause to go after me. The aura of the werewolf shifts too. Someone whispers about Joseph Patterson never having horses before. More mutter about the horrendous smell. Furious outrage flares among the pack. Not yet, Jeffrey. I need answers first. Then you can have them. Please. Hurry. The pack tenses. They instinctively spread out behind. This is the ambush part of the attack. Now for the theatrics. Mistral. A frigid wind carries the armor's glacial aura forward. A lantern flickers. Frost crawls on the glass of a single window while, behind, the horses whinny softly. They caught my scent. Come out. A scramble in the house. Someone moves the nearest shutter with a laughable attempt at stealth. I turn my gaze upon the mortal, and my helmet swivels ominously. Do not make me repeat myself. We don't want anything to do with you. Go away, this is private property. The person bleats. A man, rather old. Joseph Patterson, I'd wager. The attackers in the second house slip weapon barrels through the windows. Cute. Ultimately useless. I will not leave without answers, and you will not like me asking questions. Neither will your family. A sigh. Footsteps, interrupted by frantic whispers. They stop when a revolver clicks and a grown man utters a threat. Interesting. It appears that one of the hunters does not trust his host. A part of me decides that the objective here is to retrieve the leader and any documents they may have. Another enjoys the prelude of threats and banter that comes before the inevitable violence. The last part revels at my newfound power. I know where everyone is. I know what they can do, which is very little. I smell the acrid perfume of their fear. I stand there while the patriarch glances fearfully outside with the full knowledge that I am exactly where I am meant to be and there is no force inside of my territory that can challenge that. I let my arrogance radiate. The door opens. A fearful man peers at me from behind the feudal barrier of nailed planks. He hesitates before standing on the threshold. The cross on full display on his chest shines a nice blue. I recognize the old promise of ash and retribution, much more potent than it used to be. It feels so nice to be recognized for one's own achievements. I know what you are, vampire. I keep hearing this as if it made any difference. I shall cut to the chase. Quiet. I raise a finger and block the sound of our conversation from those still inside. Another spell and I see the interior clearly through the wall. I count a scared woman with a ruddy face, 4 children, and a nervous man with a beard holding the muzzle of his Colt against the youngest kid. You will invite me in and I will spare your family, or I will tear you apart and let the one you pray to sort them out. You cannot go in. They can, I add with a smile. The old man looks behind me and blanches. It is finished, Patterson. Make your choice. You have until your guest loses his nerves to make your decision. I can't. They have us. Oh, I can hear him breathe harder. Will he shoot your eldest first, or will it be your wife? Damn you. Damn you. Come inch. Bolt. A ray of pure blood magic pierces the wall and lands squarely between the eyes of the hostage-taker, killing him on the spot. It drills through the back, until I hear a hoarse panic. A bit heavy-handed on this one. Ah, well. Much obliged. I turn and take a step towards the new house. Fire. Someone yells. Bullets clang uselessly against the armor. I let them, because this is fun. Some miss and hit the ground instead despite my proximity. Those idiots waste much silver. Do they not know the price of an ounce? Bloody wastrels. Shred. The front of the house explodes in a hail of shards. 8 men scream. One, who was hit in the eye, is quite vocal. I take a small jump towards the attic and smash through the few planks still attached. The floor groans under my weight. This is what I had been looking for. I calmly make my way through a writing desk where some correspondence awaits. My slow pace surprises the 3 men present so much that they forget to shoot. The oldest finally recovers his spirits just as I place those documents in a ratty leather bag. Monster. Die. He empties a revolver on my back. The bullets ping pointlessly against loathsome penetrable aegis. Warriors should face their own deaths with dignity, do you not agree? I ask. Click. 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 His eyes meet mine. He does not wear a cross. I slap his meager defenses aside and seize his mind in an iron vice. Lots of guilt here, tempered by alcohol and rage. We will have time to be more intimately acquainted later. Sleep. With a prisoner and his papers under an arm, I jump down just as the door to the attic bursts open. A man clamors after me while I leave. This isn't over. Indeed not. The werewolves have waited far too long for this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, they are all yours. Do enjoy yourselves, I tell them. Growls and snarls answer. Hybrid forms surge after defenders who apparently forgot to reload and the bloodshed begins. Jeffrey stayed back. His interest is still on Patterson. Why? We always left you alone. You ain't natural. I am surprised at the hurt in Jeffrey's eyes. Oh, his policy towards human neighbors might change in the near future. Ah, but it is not just faith that motivated you, is it? I grab for my prisoner and realize that he is frozen solid. Ah, oops. I may have forgotten about the armor's effect. I drop the corpse, which unfortunately breaks, and pick up a note instead. A receipt for payment of $7 per week of rent to a Mr. Joseph Patterson. You fucking sell out. Quite a princely sum for such a hovel. Now, as promised, your family gets to live. You have 15 minutes to pile on whatever you owe on the nearest cart. I will even consent to you keeping one of the horses. The old man pales even more, something that I thought impossible. But you can't. I do not speak. Sharp claws dug into a support beam somewhere behind me. The man lets out a short yelp while I hear a snarl. Or you could keep wasting time. I suggest. They rush, a pathetic scramble to carry your entire life in a few minutes. Patterson turns to us when their cart is filled. Behind, the rest of his family waits in a terrified huddle. They can go now. He blinks. They? The claws of my right hand dig in his shoulders. I bring him to his knees. I said that your family may leave. You may not. No. The tallest boy screams, but the others hold him back. Ah, yes, I can see the anger in his eyes. The fury. I could act on it, since he is almost old enough. Instead, I lean forward and smile. You can try to get me when you are old enough. Just remember not to miss your first shot, because I never do. On your way now, or I will consider that you declined my more than generous offer. They leave. I drink Patterson dry. By the time he dies, the werewolves have cleaned themselves. Someone please set the horses free, I request. While Jeffrey sends a minion, I grab the flickering lantern and smash it against the dry roof. I repeat the maneuver 3 times, one for each building until the entire farm is ablaze. I use the provided light to take another document from the list, this one a map. The hunters were truly careless. Perhaps they underestimated the werewolf's intellect, or perhaps they expected to have the time to destroy incriminating documents if they were spotted. It matters little. I give it to Jeffrey, who dutifully inspects it. His eyes still shine with a deep resentment and his usual demeanor is gone, at least for now. What is this? A list of safe houses and supply caches. I must deal with the main threat. You handle the raiders. Find the bases. Kill everyone. Burn everything. Ah, it is good to be home. Phineas finds me the next afternoon, back in Marquette, with the pride of a man who just resolved a particularly complex problem. Our opponents have proven quite canny. All the return addresses have turned out to be drop points. I checked on the map of Chicago you currently have. They correspond to law offices and boxes. It would have been a dead end, except that several of the shipments requested and transferred by our mysterious foes are leather goods. Gloves, belts, soles to replace equipment damaged in operation and sourced here quickly. They bought their own supplies. Whoever designed this operation clearly has a good knowledge of tactics, but their understanding of strategy and supply chain in particular remains quite lacking. There are several traces of such mishap in the documents I found. The important point, however, is that there is only one cheap and reliable source of leather goods in Illinois. The local tannery. I funded the purchase of sewing machines myself. Indeed, and the founder's grandson holds you in high esteem. The goods were delivered to a warehouse block in Chicago. I have the address. You think that our mysterious adversaries might be hiding there? Payment was made there and a receipt was issued, with reference to an account at the Chicago Trade Bank. This implies the presence of a support staff. Where the support staff is, you will find answers. This is the best lead I can get without being on site. How serendipitous, because I am done here. Prepare your luggage. The time has come to nail the problem at the source. Chapter 159. We leave Marquette the next night in complete secrecy. Phineas has received a gift from Constantine while I was away, a low-born nightmare. This is, in reality, a thinly disguised show of support for our operation. I suspect that by now most wardens know that Illinois is being contested anyway. I make sure to bring my armor and have personal effects sent by carriage. As for us, we will ride through the countryside in travel clothes. I did not have the time to find anything better than a chest protector for him, and his night armor should not be worn. Is this really necessary? Phineas asks, do they not know that you have returned? Our enemies do not know where I am and what I am doing right now, and I intend to keep it that way. I want the element of surprise on our side. You have burnt down a farm. And among our enemy's agents, I left no survivors. You would be surprised how easily one can achieve discretion when there is nobody left to observe. Phineas gives me a glare from the sight as we rush past the small pond, grown smaller by a lack of rain. I have grown familiar with your methods and the underlying philosophy. And it is such a good one too. You are welcome, I finish with a smile. Truly, it should be common sense. I would have killed the family too, but it would have gone against my code. What do you plan to do once we arrive? Phineas asks, this time more seriously. We know very little about the situation. Our first priority is to reconvene with Melusan. She is a shrewd woman, and will no doubt have knowledge and strong opinions on everything. She usually does. Her help will prove decisive. Should you not be the one who provides help? She is a city master. And I am a war lady as well as the warden of this state. I realize that Phineas stopped me on a question of etiquette and amend my remark. Melusan would not be losing unless she is being heavily outclassed. We have already determined that the scale of the assault is at the level of the state, therefore the responsibility to repel it falls to me. Do not be concerned, Melusan and I have cooperated on several occasions with great success, despite her natural prickliness. I blame it on her English heritage. Phineas and I engage in a brief staring contest. How dreadful, the Lancaster man retorts, especially when compared to your French and American tendencies to start revolutions. Touché. The watcher save me, there are two of them now, I lament. We both smile and keep riding into the night. It takes us a few hours to reach the outskirts of Chicago despite our speed, and I am amazed to find that the city has continued its explosive growth. Tatty wooden houses and shops sprawl explosively from the beating heart of the city, pulsing in time with the stock exchange and the innumerable train lines. It even smells a bit cleaner with the recent addition of an excellent sewer system. I just find it slightly disappointing that the sewage would spill in the city's fresh water source, but what can I say? I am no civil engineer. We ride through deserted alleys on our way to Melusan's compound. I have to admit that the poverty and squalor are not as dreadful as I had feared. Melusan always said that many of her more influential citizens promoted clean living and that she would support their impetus. We even come across a natural park, a surprisingly fancy addition to an otherwise poor district. I have Phineas dismount shortly before we approach Melusan's compound in case there are hostile sentries, and we take to the roofs, or at least I try to before I realize a bit of a conundrum. There are no wooden roofs in all of Chicago that can support a vampire carrying 500 pounds of eternal ice battle armor on her back. I am reminded of that fact and hope that the cost of repair will not prove too taxing for that innocent family. I also discover that accidentally and forcefully entering someone's home uninvited feels terrible and disturbing. I was essentially shoved out. Never mind, you stay up and scout for the both of us. I will walk. Contain your aura as much as you can. A click of the tongue to mark his acknowledgement and we are on our way. Melusan has set her base next to meatpacking factories, and while the smell is not the most pleasant, the lack of late-night entertainment allows us to easily spot groups of individuals with questionable motives. We avoid them and find our destination guarded and fortified, and immense relief. I dreaded the unlikely possibility that Chicago had been entirely taken over. If we have a base, then we have a chance. I signal Phineas. We move through the shadows, then circle the main entrance. A tall, protective stone wall encircles the brick buildings my ally made her seat of power. I glance up to see a subtle line of enchantment surrounding the entire perimeter. The hint of fire in the methodical work reminds me of Melusan herself. She must have spent some time setting it up. We should get in, I suggest. I jump and allow the alarm to trigger. Phineas lands by my side shortly after. We have arrived in a small courtyard. The windows leading to the two-story building in front of us are all boarded cleanly. It takes less than 30 seconds for 3 familiar auras to arrive. Melusan lands first, trades tents under an armored dress I made for her. To my dismay, it looks damaged. John and Urchin follow in similarly patched-up gear. My joy at seeing them again withers at the pain I notice, and the palpable relief when they recognize me. All of them show clear, distinct physical signs of mental exhaustion, a shocking display for us. It makes me angry. This unprovoked attack will be punished. I will make sure of it. Ariane. I dared not hope. It really is you, but, your aura? I cannot feel it. It would be better if we two kept a low profile at first. Everyone, meet Phineas of the Lancaster. Phineas, those are Melusan of the Lancaster, Urchin of the Vanheim and Doe of the Natalis, by order of seniority. A pleasure. It is good to finally see you again after hearing so much, Phineas smoothly greets. Only good things, I hope? Melusan asks with a hint of her old abrasive self. Naturally. Gentlemen, an honor. Likewise, Urchin greets as he spins his silver dollar. John merely nods, then our eyes meet and he lowers his in shame. It makes me distinctly uncomfortable. We should talk more in a more secluded place. There's much to do, I say. Yes, indeed. Yes. Congratulations on recruiting someone normal, Ariane. Everyone, follow me please, Melusan declares. What is that supposed to mean? Pa. We move between densely woven defensive enchantments and sturdy bricks, then to a fortified door. Guards on the outside are few and grouped, a sign that Melusan expects a vampire attack. Isolated sentries are of no use against vampires. Worse, being picked off tends to affect morale adversely. Those few we come across share the fatigue and stress I detected in my allies. This is a siege and it has lasted for far too long. Finally, we climb sets of stairs to an elegantly decorated boudoir. The understated luxury belies the base's rough exterior. I wait for Melusan's invitation to sit on the nearest couch, a courtesy that she acknowledges with a minute smile. Before we begin, she says, "May I ask if you are back for good? We were informed that you had returned by so far, however." Yes. My stay with the Knights has been cut short. Phineas makes a choking sound. By this, I mean that a member tried to assassinate me and we parted as a result. Violently. Under Jimena's initiative, I might add. Jimena? Melusan exclaims. Really? Yes. Really. It is fine, however, I have my aura firmly under control. I show a bit of fang. Trust me. Well, it will be more than necessary, because we are facing a lord. I keep calm. I expected such an outcome, of course, but to hear it from Melusan herself confirms my belief that we are facing a coalition. Between the financial means and the presence of a lord, whoever is attacking us has invested a stupefying amount of resources for the sake of taking me down. I almost feel flattered. Please do elaborate. She sighs, and her shoulders slump. Melusan almost never loses her composure. We have been under attack for months. At first, those were just hostile financial moves, then our enemies escalated to physical attacks against supply convoys all masked under the guise of banditry. Even carrying goods by train could not stave them off. Wagons went missing. Entire shipments were sent somewhere else by mistake. Tracking down our enemy proved useless as most of their agents were disposable stooges hired by proxy or simply bitten. I was compelled to ask Zafar and Constantine for assistance. She stops then and passes a hand through her thick red hair. She searches my face, perhaps waiting for judgment, perhaps comfort. I signal her to continue. I cannot rest until I know. With her help, we managed to stabilize the most vulnerable ventures, but I must warn you, we have to abandon the expansion west and some of our reconstruction projects. Naturally. You are under attack, I say. Another nod. I am comforted that you would agree. With our assets in relative safety, I finally managed to follow the money trail out of state. More specifically, to the south. I could not send agents to investigate while we were under siege, but there were enough hints to locate a base east of here, on the edge of the lake. Urchin and Doe joined me on a determined assault. She winces. We were soundly beaten. The attack started normally and we managed to disable 2 courtiers and wound a master. Then the Lord arrived with reinforcements. He disabled all of us. A clean blow to the heart. He was trained for war, John says. Like Jarek. It is as he says. He knew how to fight and so did the others. They had Roland aura, mistress, Urchin says. His silver dollar disappears somewhere and a knife replaces it. Melusan huffs at the memory. Unfortunately we cannot prove anything. We woke up at the base with half of our standing forces decimated. I will be honest, I could have kept fighting but it was not worth it. I know when I am outclassed. The plan so far was to hire Natalus mercenaries from Jarek, discreetly. He has been reluctant to send them. He called it a show of weakness. But what can I do against this aggression? We are weak, comparatively. Not anymore. You have me now. It will not be enough, unless you are suddenly a lady. I am. Then. Pardon me. I am serious. I assented. It is done. Melusan glares, though I can feel hope bubbling in her carefully controlled aura. You are going to be so insufferable. Oi? I shall permit you to bask in my illustriousness after we have triumphed, I generously allow. I would rather bask in the morning sunlight. I cannot feel it in your aura. I am aiming to become nearly invisible. I suspect that several local lords have reached that level of aura control. Mine is still insufficient, but I have had an excellent teacher. Enough of this, we must strike at our foes before they realize that I am here. Are you fully confident that you can face a battle lord in combat? Yes. Then it would be best to defeat them before they go to ground. Unfortunately, they have since moved from the base we found. We will have to find them either in or around the city, and with that size. Ah, this is where I come in, Phineas says with a smile. He picks a folded paper from his breast pocket, then places it on the coffee table between the five of us. It contains a summary map of the warehouse quarter along the shore of Lake Michigan. Phineas briefly explains how he followed the paper trail to what seems to be the logistics heart of the opposition. It should be in this warehouse. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Melusan muses. This place used to belong to a wizard cabal called the Dresden Group. They and the other practitioners left following a citywide edict against magic. Oh! I exclaim with some surprise. Yes. Chicago is almost exclusively white and magic-free, and therefore respectable enough for East Coast citizens to move to. It cost me my detail of magicians, but in the grand scheme of things, I deemed that it was worth it. They would not have made a difference. I would think that she underestimates how resourceful a group of supported, trained mages can be. She should not. We sided with one when we escaped the Gabrielite trap all those years ago. She has forfeited safety for profit. Perhaps this is why our enemies wormed themselves in her city while only sniffing around mine. Nevertheless, she has brought us great wealth and will again, given the chance. It is only fair that I should protect our interests. Let us return to the subject at hand. The warehouse. Yes. I had no interest in it when it was sold, so I did not follow, but it appears that it was acquired by our foes. The proximity to the shore means that they are well positioned to receive shipments of supplies while only having to keep an eye on a few key streets. Why would they only keep an eye on a few key streets? She stops. I suppose that we would be expected to approach by land. Since we already live there. Then we shall approach by sea. Or lake, in this case. Do you know how to operate a ship? She asks with some surprise. We will not ride on the ship of the line, you dunce. Can you not row? I will row, John says with finality. Melusan's aura reflects her true nature. She is pouting. This hardly counts as a plan. We get a rowing boat, we sail along the shore to the warehouse and disembark. We identify which building or buildings host the vampires and attack them before they can plan a defense. We capture as many as we can and use their supply routes to wipe their organization from the land in one fell swoop. What if the Lord is out? Then we capture his underlings. This is a key location. They will not leave it defenseless. Their supply routes will surely be coded, Urchin remarks. And I am confident that those in charge are scrumptious. I already have the wolves handle a few of the groups we found. We will handle the rest and use my security forces to mop up. It is time to send a message. Something shifts in the auras of those I call my friends. I realize that, until now, they had held little hope that the situation might be resolved. A siege of several months has a way to sap even the most stalwart defenders. I do not envy them. Very well. This is more a guideline than a plan, but with so many unknowns, anything too elaborate will be of no use anyway, Melusan admits. What if they have two lords? She continues after a moment of hesitation. I slap my hand against the coffee table just hard enough to receive a satisfactory reaction from the harried vampires. We do not like sudden movements and unexpected noises. This jolts them awake like a cold shower. Stop thinking about worst-case scenarios. If they decide to violate the accords that brazenly, then there is nothing we can do. Plan for the likely, not the technically possible. We will go there and we will retake what is ours. First your city, then our state. They will rue the day they thought us weak, because we are rising vampires and there is no battlefield we cannot tread. For the first time tonight, Malusin gifts me with a genuine smile. 3 knives appear in Urchin's hands while John rolls his shoulders. They're ready. Go and take your best gear. We leave in 10 minutes. Malusin and Urchin stand to leave, and so does Phineas when he realizes that John has stayed. The tall man has regained some of his countenance, and yet I detect an underlying frailty so unlike him that I do not know what to think. "I have failed you, Miss Ari," he says. "Ah, so this is what it is. Explain. You tasked me with defending your territory. I could not." I nod to myself, but really this is just a show. In truth, I should be the one who apologizes. He frowns mightily after hearing such an outrageous claim. Good. If the leader gives her follower an impossible task, who is to blame when the follower cannot complete it? He tilts his massive head, considering. I could not know that we would be attacked by such a foe, and you could not have defeated them. Now I am back and you will be by my side when we teach them a lesson. As it should be. Good. You still have that maul I gave you. Shiny as a new dollar, Miss Ari. Go get it for when you need to make an entrance. With some privacy, I quickly change into my armor and we reconvene outside. They all inspect it in silence. Urchin even raises a hand, marveling at the coat of frost decorating his sleeve like a frilly ornament. Now I can believe it. Show some patience and you will have proof, I tell him before turning around. We rush silently through the streets, dodging sentries until we arrive at the shore. It is a matter of moments to find an embarkation large enough to accommodate all of us, but when I alone am left on the dock, Malusin tsks. You are too heavy to join us. Then I will not, I reply, and step down. The placid water freezes solid under my feet. I stand on the quickly spreading ice while an entire blanket forms around me. It is time for an ice polar stroll. Follow, please, and let there be darkness. Under the protective aegis of the spell, we progress quickly to the warehouse where our foes gather. The phase spell hides aura as well as magic and vision. We move unimpeded in the relative darkness of the cloudy night like wraiths on the surface of the unmoving, fetid waters. The city might be working to clean itself, but my friends row through its dirty bath water on our way to an equally dirty deed. In a way, tonight links back to my early years as a courtier. Cloaks and daggers have led to more cloaks and daggers, but this time, I hold the blade. We are here. Malusin's whispers only reach me because the darkness spell likes me. It remains the first one I cast perfectly, and I feel a deep understanding of its nature. It will hide me until the time has come to forfeit stealth. The warehouse complex stands on a more desolate part of the shore. It does not even have a proper pier, merely a few planks jutting forward so that midnight travelers can pass their cargo from hand to hand without wetting their feet. Crates and boxes pile up against a rickety wall, but I can pierce through the illusion. Those are creaky things that will betray any attempt to climb them. The wall is high and sturdy. The only door has been reinforced with metal. There are no enchantments I can detect, however. We all gather next to it. There is a sentry farther up. He hasn't noticed us, Urchin whispers. I saw him. He is remarkably vigilant for a stooge, but he is looking in the wrong direction. A quick spell and the door opens without a sound. Behind, we find a large courtyard with more crates and jars. There are 3 large buildings inside of the compound that I can see, with one being little more than a barn used to store goods. I dismiss the second immediately because there are no lights there. The third is the right one. Enchantments. Defensive wards, Malusin whispers. And here I was afraid that we might not have the right place. They would not place them on their walls. Too obvious, and they still pretend to be hidden. Far sight. The spell opens a smooth window into the interior, showing a slightly distorted image of a serious man in black pants and shirt inspecting notes with a frown. I recognize a vampire from his immobility, though his aura is hard to perceive at this range. He, too, makes some effort to keep it under control. One of their masters. I do not know his name. He was masked last time, but I would recognize that frown anywhere. Malusin says. I nod and inspect the rest of the structure, not too worried about the being found out. This spell was specifically designed to go around wards. A careful inspection shows many mortals hard at work around an improvised office. I count another master cleaning a sword as well as 3 courtiers on the second floor currently busy getting ready for some unknown task. We caught them all, it seems. The Lord sits near the entrance to my right, brooding. He is the one who defeated us, Malusin says. All right, here is the plan. You 4 take the back door. When I give the signal, John breaks it and you come in to engage the downstairs masters before they can regroup. I will attempt to disable one but be ready for anything. Once this is done, move up and catch the courtiers. Disable them as you see fit. Try not to destroy the hearts and heads, normal wounds should suffice. Understood, Malusin says. Hold on, Phineas says, what is the signal? I glare reproachfully. You should know. Yes, Urchin adds, the signal is always the same. I decide to explain a point I deem important. Please note that I do not mean it as a metaphor for the condition of women or young proactive vampires, although it would be fitting, but sometimes, in life, you have to make your own doors. You can enter once I've made mine. Oh, I see. No, he does not, but he will. I watch the 4 warriors walk stealthily to the left entrance. John lifts them all. Time seems to slow down, heavier. Inside of the house, the Lord blinks. Good instincts, but it will not suffice. I sprint forward. Despite my grace, the moving armor still produces a whisper of a noise. The Lord jumps to his feet as the others look on with confusion. It does not matter. They are too late, because I am here. I hit bricks with my left pauldron and fully unleash my aura. The wall explodes inward in a shower of chunks and debris under my weight. Masonry flies and men scream. Dust fills the air just as my left gauntlet closes around the head of the nearest master. I clench and pulp it like a ripe melon. The door behind me shatters as well with the roar of a frustrated and rather pissed off Nautilus. The Lord materializes a dueling sword. I let Rose grow from my hand. I found you, little rats. Magna Arca. Oh shit. Ah. Yes. I can feel everything. My 4 allies crash through the demolished remains of the back entrance, dogpiling the remaining master. Thorny roots shred beams and tiles. They turn bricks to powder as if they were sand. I only manage to stop myself from destroying the desks as the first one sags from a missing leg. This time, the area is considerably smaller and I can only control a handful of roots directly, and yet there is no ruining the exhilarating sensation of utter liberation and power now filling me. I am exactly as I was meant to be, complete and free and fully myself. I can grow in strength later. Now is the time to enjoy the moment, and this man looks delicious. He runs away. Roland Lord. Adrian. Adam's twin and the more quiet of the pair ruling Kentucky. We had an agreement made at the beginning of the Civil War. Kill him. Claim his essence. Come back, you coward. He only wears a beige ensemble that would not look out of place in a salon. They always wear beige with their stupid beige hair and light brown eyes. Like looking at a backstabbing monochrome. Pathetic. Adrian jumps through a lone window in a shower of glass shards. I demolish the entire side of the house on my way out and cleave the legs of an unfortunate courtier who had the misfortune of running down the nearby stairs when I pass him by. A hint of Roland power feeds me. Just an appetizer. Magna Arca. Adrian melds into the shadows of the courtyard, his form insubstantial now. No matter. I rush forth and flay the ground with searching roots. I can still sense his presence within the sphere as roots track him even now. A hint of movement leads me to the door we left half opened. I race after the fleeing lord and turn right out. A root catches his leg when he emerges from behind a crate that would be too small to hide a dog. Reality shenanigans. 2 can play that game. More roots burst through the ground and out of walls to join the others, tightening the hold over my surroundings. Adrian frees himself and only leaves a piece of fabric and a drop of blood in his mad dash to get away from me. I sprint after him. The armor slows me, but I care not because he would stop me anyway. I turned the corner to a panicked sentry and regrettable lack of fleeing Roland. I swat the man's mind like a fly. Where is he? Panicked eyes flicked to a side alley. I stomp the ground like an unstoppable juggernaut and smile when I feel a presence in the corner, behind a discarded cart with a missing wheel. We are in my sphere. I have to struggle not to let my roots rip him to shreds. I walk by and lean to the side. Adrian's soul blade grinds on my shoulder and bounces back. I angled it perfectly. I grab his wrist before he can retreat and snap it effortlessly. His handsome face is so close to mine that I can feel the small exhale of controlled agony drifting over my eyelashes. I pull him in and retract Rose, but he melts again before I can bite down. I like it when you wriggle, I tell the fleeing form while I race after it. He turns towards the shore. He comes to a stop in front of a small fishing cabin. I do not. I rotate and cast a fast mirage to duplicate the following horizontal strike. Adrian gifts me with delectable consternation before vanishing again. Arg! So frustrating. I hiss. The cabin explodes in a torrent of shards. Adrian slips through the rain to a barrel and then, to my immense surprise, jumps into the water. I watch him disappear under the dark waves. Calm returns to the surface a moment later. That feckless ruffian. I cannot follow. I will not follow. I would only turn into a livid ice cube, propelled by rage. The water is filthy. I roar once and let the Magna Arca fade away. He escaped, the slippery bastard. No matter. I can testify of his presence and we should have enough prisoners to put his wardenship to an end. Amusingly, Malusin was entirely correct. There could have been two lords here, with his twin included. I turn and realize that this is almost a recreation of that scene in Savannah I survived back in 1812. I had to run from a furious Lord Suarez after a small incident of bank robbery, only to dive headfirst in Savannah's tepid and filthy waters. How the tables have turned. I scrunch my nose under the face mask and thank the watcher that I avoided an impromptu bath this time. Let another smell of pee. The curse has been lifted. In a significantly better mood, I return to the abandoned base to find that we did indeed get all of our foes prisoner. Unfortunately, their base has collapsed. Only half of it still stands. What happened here? I asked no one in particular. You, Ariane. You happened. We are lucky to have recovered so many of the documents, but the rest is lost under a significant amount of debris because of your heavy-handed approach. Malusin spits with obvious frustration. Well, excuse me. Next time I shall leave you to beat the Lord while I handle the housekeeping, yes? At least my beatings do not extend to the architecture. Really, little Miss Firebug? Really? You are just as insufferable as I remember. Please let me know when you leave so I can tidy the city, your hallowed bumpkinness. Next time I will bring explosives. We bicker with pleasure while packing up. All in all, tonight was an auspicious haul. I was right to act fast. I decide to head back to Marquette where I can securely hold prisoners while I summon Constantine or one of his enforcers. The next day, Malusin presents me with a newspaper cut framed in elegant rosewood. Here, as a mark of my appreciation and to remember your timely assistance, she tells me. I frown and read in silence. The Chicago Tribune. Panic by the shore. An unidentified lunatic terrorized the coast yesterday evening. At 2 in the morning, Chicagoans living near Menominee and Wisconsin streets were forced awake by the screams of a deranged individual of the female persuasion. Although many citizens opened their shutters to investigate the disturbance, the guilty harridan could not be found, leaving the inhabitants baffled and irritated. "'Twas like a mountain lion in rut," Mrs. Culpepper reports to the Tribune. "If I wasn't living in the city I would have sent my old Paul with a rifle and a prayer, I would. Since the harpy bellowing those horrendous screams could not be found." I carefully lower the frame. "You're doing, I suppose. I have no notion about what you could possibly mean. For the sake of the continued existence of our arrangement and your own continued existence, I shall leave this place. Please make sure to pull your own weight in something other than making bank, for once. Ah, concerning this," Malusin adds more seriously. I would be grateful if you could leave Phineas with me to help with the investigation. I turned to Phineas, who considers the offer with greedy eyes. Phineas is his own man. If he agrees, it would be convenient. Yes, the man agrees a bit quickly. I bet a cotton bale against a twig that they plan on investigating each other's nether regions. Ah well. Please do your best to solve the current crisis, I remind them. Urchin, John, and I ride out of the city at nightfall while doing our best to avoid attraction. I unexpectedly feel an oar tugging at us while we move through small streets surrounded by wooden houses of poor making. A fire hazard is what it is. I keep moving at a slow pace until we find Adrian waiting for us. He wears a new, clean suit which annoys me a bit. I stop Metis, who snorts derisively at the vampire in front of her. This is not what you think. I would like to discuss terms. Why would I bother when I can have the Accords bury you? Because that is what they want, and they have my brother. Tobe continued.